Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to your weekly queer video game podcast. This is episode 29, and I'm your host, Zoe Wild. I am a transgender and bisexual woman, and my pronouns are she, her. So, the last few weeks have been packed full of news, segments, and interviews, and I haven't really checked in on what we've been playing, so this week we'll be focused on that. And joining me for this episode is Amy-Lynn. Amy-Lynn is a transgender lesbian whose pronouns are she, her. Hi, Amy-Lynn. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, it feels like that. I wasn't able to jump in on the Switch 2 adventures and escapades, so yeah, I think that it feels like we're in a different era now that we're post-Switch 2 reveal.
Post-Switch 2 reveal? We can talk a little bit about that because, first off, we missed you in that recording. I was hoping to have you on, especially because I had you and Ekami in the first Switch reveal presentation, or podcast recording. And yeah, now that there's like the absolute clusterfuck of news and miscommunication from Nintendo, and then Nintendo's not clarifying anything, so everyone's getting all this information wrong, and then there's like all the pricing bullshit. So it's just like, I don't know. I guess I'll just ask you straight up, are you going to buy a Switch 2 at launch?
If I can, and that's honestly just to kind of get it out of the way. Because I remember how difficult both the Wii and the Switch were finding the first, probably 6-8 months after launch. So if I can get in, great. The only game I'm super excited for is Kirby Air Riders, because I'll have access to Deltarune in other sources. Again, lots of the exclusives look cool, but nothing I'm excited for until Kirby comes out.
That's fair. Kirby was definitely I said this on Twitter, that everything else looks like oatmeal compared to Kirby Air Riders, and that's not anything bad to say about any of the other reveals. I think all the other reveals looked great, but I think Kirby Air Riders was so exciting to me. There's that video going around that's going viral of that woman that's she's like, oh my Jesus, and she's screaming every time they show any little detail, and she says something about Dark Souls Kirby. I don't know if you've seen it, but that's exactly how I reacted, minus the Jesus stuff, but it was just so exciting. I love Kirby Air Rides so much. So yeah, let's hope we can get one at launch, and we can actually pre-order one, because that would be nice if they would. For anyone who doesn't know, the pre-orders in the US were delayed, but they were also delayed in Canada because everything from the US comes. Everything they sell in Canada comes through the US. So we're basically America Junior, apparently, even though in anything but name. So this week, Amy-Lynn and I are going to catch up on what we've been playing. Afterwards, she and I are going to work our way through this week's headlines before wrapping up for a bit of a shorter episode this week. But in terms of headlines, actually, a lot of them are queer game-related or queer adjacent, which is actually really cool. This includes some updates on Cyberpunk 2077 and Hades 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2. The Last of Us TV series has an update, Sims 4, and we'll also see what's going wrong with the PlayStation concerts. That's right, something's up with them, and we're going to get into it. But before we jump into everything, I have a few quick favors to ask. If you like this podcast, please consider leaving a comment or review on your preferred podcast platform. True Avatars has only been rated a handful of times across all the podcast platforms, and I've started receiving a handful of comments and reviews. Leaving feedback not only helps with visibility, but it helps me to know what you like and don't like about the podcast so I can improve it as I find my footing. Also, please follow True Avatars, a queer video game podcast, on social media. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and YouTube at True Avatars, and you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com. That's all one word, trueavatarspodcast.com. And remember, this is a weekly queer video game podcast, so come listen in every week. I aim to bring you news, interviews, and up-to-date discussions that are relevant to queer gamers, so you can check in on the world of gaming from a 2S LGBTQI+ lens. So, Amy-Lynn, let's get right down to it. What have you been playing lately?
So nothing new so far. I just haven't had the time. I work in education, and it is report card season, or it was. So that's been pretty dominating my I guess not my free time, but my energy, I suppose. But I stumbled across a game that you might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but it is called A Year of Springs. I think it's just on Steam, and it is a very cute little visual novel, and it's like a 3-part series, it looks like, and I think what drew me to this was I've been, the last really sort of big video game experience that I've enjoyed. Actually, I think it might be Sonic X Shadow Generations, but before that was Arcade Spirits. And although I wasn't able to super get into the second Arcade Spirits, I've been kind of wanting like a little visual novel experience. And even though this would require me to do things on a computer, which isn't always the most fun for me, I am excited to have a sort of more small, attainable, bite-size game adventure. So that's what I'm excited to play. And yeah, as kind of mentioned, I'm also excited for all the things that are coming out, I guess, closer to June. It's great to have Deltarune sort of.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must be really excited about that one, right?
Yeah, like even though it's a month away, 2 months away, it's amazing to get, I guess, 2 chapters at the same time. I really thought it was going to be spread out. So that'll be different. And I'm curious about the length. I'm curious about a lot of things. I've enjoyed everything that has been in the kind of Undertale Deltarune universe so far, including, the weird live concert that happened and all of Toby Fox's emails. And yeah, so super exciting news there.
Before we move on from Deltarune, I just want to ask, I think I saw it in some of the press stuff when they were talking about Deltarune. They had said future chapters, plural, would be included. I have to confirm that, but I feel like I read like after chapters 3 and 4, there would be, I knew there was a chapter 5 coming, but I feel like that implies chapter 6.
That could be. What it could also mean is that if you download 1 and 2 now, once 3 and 4 come out, that is multiple chapters. So it might just be that like, oh, here's the game. If you buy it now, though that would complicate things. But there hasn't been any announcements. It wouldn't surprise me if he splits it into 5 and 6 instead of just 5. I think that just might be a better either release schedule or I guess division of labor for his usually very small team. It's usually just him, a couple artists, and a small army of testers and translators. So I think, if splitting it up helps the development, I can see him doing that for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I hear that, and I hear that kind of like PR speak, and I think like, oh yeah, they're going to go beyond chapter 5. And I mean, I don't know if he has plans to like actually tell a story beyond chapter 5, but I think for the popularity of Deltarune, it seems to have like a really intense cult following. I feel like it would probably do really well if it had a 6th chapter, but at this point, he's like, if other chapters are free updates, I guess he's not really making any more money off additional chapters. Like this is it. This is like quote unquote the full release for all intents and purposes of like buying the game. So
yeah, plus soundtrack and merchandise sales, which I'm sure will do fairly well.
Yeah, for sure. And sorry, I also cut you off. So I think you were about to go into a tangent on another game possibly earlier. But when I said before we move on from Deltarune.
I don't think so. It probably would have just been Deltarune for another hour. So you might want to talk about what you've been playing in the present.
Well, for Deltarune, I'd love to have you and Devona back on together when Deltarune's chapter 3 and 4 come out. In fact, I might actually play them both myself, so I know what the hell you guys are talking about.
I'm sure we'll both beat it like within 72 hours of its release. So I think you'll be fine.
Fair. Maybe I could get a jump start now on playing chapters 1 and 2. That way, when 3 and 4 come out, I could speedrun them with you both. But as for what I've been playing, the first game I've been playing, we don't have to spend too much time talking about. But I finally jumped into Metroid Prime Remastered, which I picked up back when it released. I was so excited. I was like, I can finally play this game with decent visuals. Not that I don't think the GameCube visuals weren't great, but the widescreen support, the HD graphics, the quality of life features. I was just like, finally, I can play this. Plus, also like, it wasn't really accessible in any recent systems. So I picked it up and then I immediately forgot about it. So I decided because the number 4 looks really good and I want to play that, I should probably at least play Metroid Prime 1 to see if I even like the series. And it turns out I do. I actually really like it. I'm getting used to the first person controls a little bit because I'm not used to it doesn't play the same way other first person shooters do. And I know they don't call it a first person shooter, but yeah, I played a little bit of Corruption as a kid, like a tiny bit. I got stuck and then I just gave up on it. But playing this version, which is the first one, I'm also stuck. I'm very stuck. And just before this podcast started recording, I was playing a little bit to see if I could get unstuck because I'm trying to. I don't know how spoiler this is. It says I'm 4% into the game, which feels wild to me because I feel like I've done so much already, but I just got the morph ball back and I went back into the main hub area of the first area, like where the Chozo shrine is, I guess whatever you call it. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get up to a ledge so I can get to the game keeps saying you need to get to this room. And I'm like, I know I need to get to that room. I don't know how to get to that room. So I spoiled a little bit and I saw that I'm going to this room to unlock the morph ball bombs. Which I forgot it existed even until, because I know she has them in Smash, but I forgot they existed in Metroid Prime. I didn't even think about it. Because at the beginning of the game, she has a lot of powers and then they get taken away from her as usual. So you're trying to just get some of those powers back. And so anyway, just before we started recording, I actually looked up, what am I doing wrong? Am I missing something? And apparently there's a tiny little hole somewhere in the area I'm in, that you have to go through with a morph ball. Cause I can see there's a bridge to the platform I need to get to that's made out of tree branches. And I'm I don't know how to get to that bridge though, but I know I have to get to that bridge to get to the room. So there must be something I have to swing on or jump across. But everything's just out of reach. So apparently there's some, I haven't even found it. I just saw a picture of it. The IGN guide admittedly was kind of crap. Normally IGN guides are actually really good, but this one was particularly crap because it didn't actually show you where to go. It just said, yeah, there's a hole somewhere that you have to roll through. And, but otherwise, I think it looks really, really nice. It doesn't look as good as much. I don't know if when I saw the trailers initially for this game, I was like, wow, it looks like a modern, recent game. It looks like it was designed from the ground up for Switch. It doesn't look like a remaster. But that said, playing it and also having seen the way Metroid Prime 4 looks on Switch 2, it definitely looks dated. But still very pretty. Controls really well. Yeah, I thought I would hate this game, and I actually really like it. So, have you ever played any Metroid games before?
I have really fond memories of Metroid Prime 1 on GameCube. I think it was a really big moment when that game was releasing. Because here is the magnum opus for GameCube, and it released on I think the same day as Metroid Fusion.
Yes. Yeah.
And you could, if you connected them, you got Metroid 1 on the GameCube for some reason. So there were so many interesting, it was a huge Metroid event, and I did enjoy Metroid Prime. It was great having a first-person experience that was more exploratory, that, had, almost that Pokemon Snap or, iNaturalist app kind of thing where you're scanning everything and learning about the world. I really loved that. But I think by that point, it was weird for me playing a game without dialogue. Without, a story that was presented, in a more clear narrative fashion. So I ended up liking Fusion a little bit more because there was kind of that almost hand-holding dialogue going throughout the game. It felt more alive. And that's the point of Metroid. You're supposed to feel isolated. It's supposed to feel, a little bit sort of quietly scary in that way. So it was doing what it was supposed to. I never beat it. I got fairly far. I think I got about 60% through. But yeah, it wasn't my kind of game. All the backtracking, I got far enough that it wanted me to go back to the beginning, and by that point there were other games.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, actually, you mentioned that it feels isolating, and I was reminded in this game of first off Alien Isolation, but also just the Alien series in general, because the game starts off the exact same way that Alien does, and it's there's a signal from a derelict ship. You've got to go investigate it. Something went wrong there. They were obviously doing some kind of experimentation. So I like the inspiration they've clearly taken from Alien, although it feels just a little heavy-handed to me, to the point where I can see literally every time they reference the Alien movies, which I actually really love those movies. So I don't know why I'm complaining, but it just feels I guess I just really would rather this be an Alien game at that point. And honestly, I know Alien Isolation is very similar. So if anyone does like Metroid and Alien movies, to go check out Alien Isolation. But that game is much more terrifying. There's much more of a survival element than an exploratory element to it. Because that alien will just come out of you from fucking nowhere, literally nowhere. But anyway, I actually want to move on to a queer game I've been playing that it's been getting a lot of buzz on social media, particularly on Twitter, because the person who made it has a lot of followers, and the game's just had kind of like a cult following before it even launched, but it came out a few weeks ago. I want to know if you've heard of it, Amy-Lynn. It's called Spilled.
I feel like it has broken containment, and I've heard it. I've heard of it. Like I've seen it on social media, but I don't think I could describe it if you asked me to.
That's okay. I'm going to describe it for the listeners.
And me.
And you, of course. Spilled is a top-down, well, it's isometric kind of, but it's a top-down pixel art game. It's a cozy game. It's got very colorful graphics. And basically, you're a little boat. I mean, you're not little. In this world, you're like a regular-sized boat, but like it looks like a miniature, basically, kind of. Like it looks toy-like almost. Anyway, you're this boat, and it is your job to go around these bodies of water and clean up the oil. It's very simple. You're just chugging around as the boat, and you're cleaning up oil, and when the oil tank fills up that you've cleaned up, you have to go empty it, and you get paid. And you get money, and there's other stuff you can like clean up. There's like things you can interact with in the world. It's a very short game. It took me exactly 90 minutes to get to the end of the credits. So just keep that in mind. Although it is a very reasonably priced game, it's like $7 Canadian. And I think it was already on sale once, even though it just came out. It was developed by one person. She's called Lenta. I do believe she is queer. I think she's a lesbian. And yeah, I know she had some help on the game a little bit towards the end. I think she had some help with the music, and she had some help with like the pixel art a little bit. But the core of the idea is definitely hers, and it's very cute. It's very charming. I played it on the Steam Deck, and it's not verified for Steam Deck. It's like, it's quote unquote Steam Deck playable, but I would argue that like there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It should be verified, because it says like the issue is like small text. I didn't think the text was too small. I could read everything. Obviously, it doesn't have, the big problem is it doesn't have like controller inputs on the screen. I feel like that would be really easy to implement if she wanted to do it. But that's really, there's nothing in the game that like makes it difficult to control. There's like 2 or 3 buttons. It's very Nintendo-like. It's very simple. It basically gives you the controls. Like it gives you like the rules. It's like, okay, you're going to go around, you're going to clean up. Oh, here's the thing you unlocked. That's a tool. And then like you figure out, like it's like Zelda or Mario where you're given this new tool, and then you've got to figure out how to interact with the world. It's almost like, I would almost like describe it as like Zelda-like, but for little kids almost. Like it's very simple, but it's got that Zelda-likeness where it's like, okay, here's the grappling hook. Figure out what to do with it. I can't understate though. I know this is a podcast, but like go to the Steam page. I've linked it in the description. Go look at the way it looks. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. Like if you it's the perfect game for like if it's a rainy Saturday morning or something and you just want to cozy up, or like right before bed and just play this like charming little game, especially like if you can play it. I think it needs to come to Switch. Like that's the perfect spot for it. So yeah, but anyway, the thing I really, really love about this, and I know I'm kind of like rambling about this, but I have a lot of points about Spilled, and I really want to highlight it because I think everyone should go play it because it's a great queer game. It's very recent and it's very cheap. But anyway, so as you're cleaning though, the oil off the water, slowly, and you won't notice it at first, but the water itself is actually becoming clear and revealing like animals and details underneath the water. So the water gets clearer and clearer as you go along. So it goes from like sludge to like brownish to like crystal clear, beautiful. And each area that you go through has like different stuff to see and find underneath, and like the water gets deeper and deeper. It's very satisfying to clean everything. It rewards you for cleaning up literally everything. And it's not hard to do. It's not like where you'll find like a couple of pixels of oil that you missed. Like it's very good about doing that. And I mentioned earlier that when you're cleaning up the oil, you go empty it out, and then it gives you money. And that money can be used to buy upgrades for your boat. So you can upgrade the speed, you can upgrade the storage space, thankfully. And you can also upgrade the like scoop that catches all the oil. I'm not sure if that's what you would actually call it, but it's like this like bar that sits at the front of your boat that catches all the oil. It looks kind of like a plow, but I think it would be more better described as a scoop. There's one point actually where I was trying to upgrade, and it's very sensitive. So like I guess I double clicked A when I was upgrading, and I spent all my money on like the upgrade path, going like doubling up on the upgrade path. So there's also animals you can rescue. They're very cute. They have punny names. In particular, there's one lizard called Legolas. Lizard, like Legolas, but like Legolas from Lord of the Rings. Also, I'm probably not pronouncing Legolas right because I am not a Lord of the Rings fan, and you can all sue me for that. The music is really, really nice. It just kind of like loops. There's like 4 or 5 tracks that like loop. It's not like area specific, but it's all very calming, very relaxing, very charming. I feel like I've spoiled a lot of the game too. It's only a 90-minute game. It's like a short hike. It's like it will not take you that long to beat this game. So I don't want to spoil too many more of the details. But there is still lots of stuff to find in the game. Lots of neat details. It's very easy to 100%. So if you're an achievement hunter and you want those achievements, there's 11 achievements. You can get them all in one sitting. You don't have to backtrack. So it's very relaxing too. If you're an achievement hunter who wants an easy achievement hunt, this is for you. Yeah, like I said earlier, I have this in my notes here, but like, there's not a lot of text. Like it just kind of shows you like, it gives you a tool. It shows you how to use that tool. And then you're like, you got to go figure out how to use that tool in the world. Very Nintendo-like I said, like, I think this developer, if she was working for Nintendo, she would make something completely amazing with the budgets they would give her. So Nintendo, hire this person, especially since you need to hire more queer devs and especially more devs who do not live in Japan. Not to say that the Japanese devs don't do a great job, but I think there's lots of voices in the world that could make great games, that could make Nintendo-like games. And anyway, limiting it to just Japan is disappointing because I know they have a few studios outside in the rest of the world. And if they had more of them, I think it would be awesome. Plus more games. Anyway, it's bite-sized. It's $7. It only takes 90 minutes. It's great for a rainy afternoon or short play sessions before bed. It has amazing reviews, by the way. So mine is not the only glowing review, but it has overwhelmingly positive on Steam. 75% of players also have the final achievement that you get for beating the game, which means 3/4 of people are finishing the game, which is super cool. And also, the last thing I'll add is that every 10 cents goes to the whale and dolphin conservation in the UK. So every 10 cents that the game makes, which is adding up because I think the game is doing very well, actually. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess I'll open it up to your thoughts, Amy-Lynn. I've kind of monologued enough.
No, and it sounds like you very much should have. That sounds like a great experience. I'm not sure if my poor, meager, tiny PCs can handle something like that. And I'm looking at the pictures. You're right. It is gorgeous. It's great to see something so like bright and vibrant. And like, even though it uses pixel art, it doesn't look retro. Like it looks like a contemporary pixel art, like kind of like what, kind of what the art of fighting games was headed for a while before they went to cell shading in 3D. Like it's gorgeous in that sense. Yeah, I think it's just appearance wise, it's a great one to check out, and so nice to sort of hear the, cetacean help fund that is part of the purchasing process. Always a nice thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's really sweet on social media. She responds a lot. She's great. Go follow her, Lenta. Lenta is spelled Lente. That's her first name. It's also her developer handle, like her company handle. But we're going to move on to the news now. Like I said, a bunch of little headlines. First up, we have some Last of Us news, actually, for the TV show, and it has already been renewed for season 3. Like, at the time of recording, it's Friday, April 11th. This podcast is going to go live Monday morning, April 14th. I think the first episode will have been broadcast or streamed the night before on Sunday night. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think that's when it debuts. So, but at the time of recording, though, the series hasn't debuted yet, and they've already renewed it for season 3, which is super cool. As for what season 3 will be about, we obviously don't know. They're not going to spoil it. But we do know that the show will not tell a story beyond the games, according to showrunner Craig Mazin. So if I had to guess, season 2 is going to end at the midpoint of Last of Us Part 2. And again, we're not going to spoil that in the show for anyone who doesn't. I don't think, Amy-Lynn, I don't think you know what happens. But maybe if you do, we just won't spoil it. But I think season 3 will pick up exactly where that midpoint picks up in the game. And I basically think that means too, if they're splitting the game into 2 parts, that means season 3 will be the last season, unless Naughty Dog develops another game so that the show can adapt, because they're not going to go beyond it. I think they specifically said we're not going to pull a Game of Thrones, which is good because that show was a fucking mess. Will you be tuning in on Sunday night for this, Amy-Lynn?
So the problem is that this is also Doctor Who weekend. So it depends on it depends on how things go. I also need to check out. I've heard it isn't great, but I want to check out Black Mirror as well. But I did really like season 1 of Last of Us, which is, I think, impressive for someone who doesn't really have an interest in zombies or PlayStation exclusives for the most part, at least current PlayStation exclusives. We'll talk about that later. But as far as like spoilers go, the only spoilers I know are the ones that are so like pervasive online that just by people trying to avoid spoilers, I figured out what the main spoiler is, which is unfortunate, but it's, the kind of thing that happens with this kind of franchise. So I'm excited to see how it goes down, though. I don't know events leading to spoiler 1. And spoiler 2, I think is more character dependent, so I don't know as much about spoiler 2. But spoiler 1 is very hard to not get spoiled, considering, characters and actors and so on.
Well, all I'll say about season 2 is that the trans character is very unlikely to show up in season 2. I think he'll show up in season 3 for sure. Well, he definitely will be in season 3. I don't think we've even seen any casting for the character in question. So no trans representation this season, but still lots of queer representation because, as you know, Ellie's in the show. All right, let's move on to the next headline here. So this is about Hades 2, and it's announced that it's going to be console exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 1 and 2 at launch. So just like the first game, Hades 2 will be exclusive to Nintendo when it releases on consoles. The first game was initially available on PC and Switch 1 at first, before coming to PlayStation and Xbox just a little bit later. So currently, if anyone who doesn't know, Hades 2 is currently in early access on Steam. So you can actually play it right now if you want to. It's unfinished. I'm not sure what state it's actually in, although from footage and clips I have seen, it looks like it visually looks great, like it mechanically works. It just might be lacking some content, particularly maybe in the later half. I have to imagine that's where the early access part kind of comes in. But yeah, so PC, the game is already on PC, so that's where it's going to be when it's not on consoles. And so when it comes out later this year, it will launch fully on PC, and then the consoles it will be on will be Switch 1 and Switch 2. It's great that it's coming to Switch 1 as well, so... I will take that to mean you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I haven't played the first Hades, but I am like just a fan of indie games with cool art. So I'm going to be excited to see the new character portraits. I'm sure most of them are out there already, but I know in particular some were left unfinished for the early access. So I'm excited to see the art and the fan art, and possibly get into the Hades games. They look fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the genre myself, but I think like aesthetically and just like all the style that's gone into it, like it looks like something very fun if you're into that genre. So yeah, I might jump in, I might not. I haven't decided yet. There's also so much to play. So.
It does seem accessible for those who aren't super into the genre. Like, it doesn't seem like one of those, like if you think about, games like Super Meat Boy or Binding of Isaac or what's that, like Hollow Knight a little bit. Hollow Knight's kind of, I think, mid as far as like accessibility. What's that game like VVVVVVVVV? Like, it doesn't seem like it's an incredibly hard, I see you looking at me like I was glitching out or something. There's a game that is called like a bunch of V's. Like, that is the title of the game. And it's a really hard precision platformer. And
you weren't kidding. It's literally 5 V's.
I wasn't repeating. I wasn't wasn't some sort of connection mishap. But compared to like other roguelikes or roguelites, whichever one Hades is, it feels like Hades does a lot to really make itself appealing as far as like characterization, story, that kind of stuff. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a repetitive slog in a dungeon.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, like you said, like just the art and the fan art, and I think it's going to get a lot of praise this year. If it launches before the Game Awards, I'm sure it will be up for a lot of awards, even if it doesn't win any, because I know the first one won a bunch. But this year's Game Awards is going to be super interesting because you've got a bunch of new Nintendo games that are sure to break boundaries. You've got GTA 6, you've got Hades 2. Apparently, Blue Prince is a Game of the Year contender, which just came out this week. Which I realized I talked about on the podcast before, but I didn't realize it's a pun on like blueprints. So like you're using the blueprints of a house to figure out how the house is laid out, but it's also blueprints like a monarch. Anyway, apparently it's really good. I don't think it's got any queer content, but apparently it's very good. And then there's also Split Fiction, which I'm sure is going to be nominated for Game of the Year because my partner and I finished it, and holy fuck, it's so good, so good.
I've heard sort of after like an initial hump, it really becomes like spectacular. So I don't know if I'll have the ability to play it, but it seems like an amazing time.
It is, yeah. If we ever have a chance, like if we ever have like we both have the same console to play it on, like I mean, I have it. If you ever have a PS5 or you ever here, I can like at least demo it for you because you should at least try it. It's like it starts off being like kind of like a variety game of like a bunch of different genres, like a basic version of those. But then like at a certain point, like you said, yeah, it gets over a hump and it becomes very, 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 very smart, like very clever. There's a lot of varies in there, but I mean that. So anyway, let's move on to the next headline here. Nintendo Switch 2 will feature per game, per user controller profiles. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, I'm going to break it down because it is a little bit confusing to just hear that sentence and go, Zoe, what the fuck does that mean? Well, basically, if you want to remap specific buttons to make gameplay more accessible for you, like swapping the A button in Mario Kart, which is the accelerator button. Like if you want to drive forward, you press A in Mario Kart. If you want to swap that with the right trigger, like the R button on the back of the controller, like any other video game would have it set to, now you can. But what if you don't want that button swap of the R and the A button to apply to other games? Or you have a friend over or your family member, they don't want that button swap to apply to them when they're playing on your system. Well, basically you can set it on the Switch 2 so that button swap will only apply to that game, in this example Mario Kart, and you can also set it so it only applies to your user profile. So that way anyone loading into Mario Kart doesn't get hit with that button preset. Like if Amy-Lynn is playing at my house and she wants to play Mario Kart World, and I've set it so the R is the accelerator and the A button does nothing now, or it throws an item, she won't be confused when she's trying to play the game because it won't apply to her, which is I think is really cool. That this is a basic accessibility feature that I think has been available on other consoles for a long time, and it's finally coming to Switch 2.
Very cool. I think another way to explain it would be if you think about what Smash Bros. Let you did, you can do that for other games.
Yeah, it's nice that it's finally a universal feature. I know they kind of highlighted it specifically in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct with the GameCube NSO feature, like the classics on there. But it's nice that it'll apply to any game that you want it to. Yeah. This is a very queer headline we have here. Sims 4 has released a free content update. This was a couple weeks ago now, but it contains a bunch of Pride-themed items. And yes, like I said, because it was a few weeks ago, it's available now. All these items are available now. This comes from Gaming Mag, and I'm going to quote the article here. The Sims 4 released a new free update yesterday, bringing new prideful items to the game, available for EA app, Epic Game Store and Steam, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One systems. This new update, one of several free item releases coming this year, further expands inclusive content in The Sims 4 with 12 new vibrant Create a Sim and Build and Buy mode items that Sims can incorporate into their everyday lives, including clothing, stylish furniture, and an expanded selection of pride flags. From chic home accents that create cozy and safe spaces to trendy outfits that make a statement, the new update brings even more ways for players to celebrate themselves and their communities. So, I went through the trailer to actually see which pride flags were included. And now I'm not sure if that meant like there were 12 pride flags. I didn't actually count how many they have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like more than that. Yeah, 14. So anyway, yeah, the pride flags they actually included. The classic pride flag, like just the I don't know, the banners, would you call it? Like the
color
lines?
bars, yeah.
The color bars, yeah. They had the progress flag, which is the color bars plus the inclusion of the intersex flag and the trans flag, and also I'm not sure what you'd call the flag, but it's the flag that represents people of color. I'm not sure if there's a specific name for it because I haven't actually seen the flag on its own. I've only seen those colors as part of the progress flag. But also really cool, it's got the Two-Spirit flag. It's got the flag for gay men. It's got the lesbian flag, the non-binary flag, the genderqueer flag, the bisexual flag, pansexual flag, transgender flag, gender fluid flag, the asexual flag, and the old intersex flag, which thanks to Lloyd, who we were in the Discord all talking about this, we did not know which flag this was. I sent a screenshot of it and I was like, what is this? And I Googled pride flags, and granted, I'm a bad podcast host. I do not know all my pride flags. I had to look half of them up. Not half of them, but a few of them. And so we figured out it's the old intersex flag. So and the reason it confused me too is it's very similar to the trans flag, but with more bars on it. And the new one is yellow with a purple circle. So I think given that the new intersex flag is represented on the progress flag, maybe they included both designs for both intersex flags for like variety's sake. I'm not sure. But yeah, if you play The Sims and you're looking for some nice new Pride-inspired designs, this seems to be some of the best representation a video game has ever had, at least in terms of Pride flags and colors. So go wild, I guess.
So I think that like it is amazing that a game like The Sims is including all these pride flags, and you know, The Sims has had a really good reputation for generally like general inclusion and things like that. I am curious though, which lesbian flag did they include?
That is a good question. It's like the sunset looking one. I don't know what the other one looks like, but it's the sunset colored one.
Okay, that's good. I'm always cautious when the Labrys one shows up.
That's the transphobic one, right?
I mean, not intended
or the creator
to be,
is transphobic.
Yeah, it's either the creator is transphobic, or people adopted the flag as a like turf type of lesbian symbol.
Okay.
And the sort of sunset one, as you described, I think there's an 8-bar variant and a 5-bar variant. But yeah, I like that one quite a bit. So it's cool. I'm relieved to hear that they went with that one.
Yeah, no, I to be honest, I rarely see the other one you're talking about. I know I've seen it. I don't remember what it looks like, but I know I've seen it. And every time it comes up, the comments are usually like, "No, we don't use this one because it's trans exclusive." So yeah, no. There were a few that I thought would be included here. Like I saw like a list of like all the pride flags, and there were a bunch I didn't see. But honestly, they included so many of them here. In fact, the fact that they included the Two-Spirit flag, I think, is a very big deal because
that's awesome.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen it in a game anywhere before.
I don't think it would be added to it. Like, I don't think there would be an opportunity, like, unless there is an indigiqueer or Two-Spirit game developer out there. I'm sure there is. And they might have included it as, you know, either a game element or just sort of a background element. But as far as like a mainstream or a widely available game, I don't imagine there's been a game that's intentionally added it before. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it covers, I don't think there was the agender flag. In fact, the agender flag was what I first thought was maybe the old intersex flag. But so there are a few flags, yeah, they didn't include, but for the most part, everyone is represented here. And of course, everyone's represented under like the progress or the pride flag, if that's what you want to. So, and also I think that including the gay men flag is very interesting because I very rarely see that, because I feel like gay men are generally lumped under like the pride flags or the progress flags. You don't see the, it's like not the anti-lesbian flag, but it's like the opposite colors. Like it's very green and bluish.
Yeah.
Much colder looking, like the opposite of a sunset almost. And not to say it looks like a sunrise, but
I don't want to speak for gay men, but I think a lot of them tend to just use the old pride flag, like just the rainbow one, more so than the gay men flag.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's because a lot of people don't know about the gay men flag. I don't know my queer history entirely with all the flags, unfortunately. But I do encourage you, if you don't know your history either, go look it up. Go educate yourself. But I am seeing it a little bit every year. I see it more and more used. And I do think everyone should have a flag. Why not? Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
You know? Be represented.
It's fun.
And if you don't like the flag, all these flags are created by people. Like, it wasn't like there's some like gay society of people that are like, all right, this is the flag, we're all gonna vote on it, so 12 people submit. No, it's just it gets adopted and popularized by like grassroots, by people on the internet, by people at pride events and stuff. So
it's a very organic process, which is really cool.
Yeah. But it also means that the people who created these flags generally don't get any kind of payment or compensation when these things do get put into games for monetary. Like the Sims is like obviously they're included for free, but like using these items in the game is not going to pay the people that created the flags, unfortunately. So that's the only downside.
When,
but
companies like Disney or Hot Topic put these flags on their products, the creators don't get any cut of that. So reach if a lot of these artists, the ones that are still alive, are around the internet. Go check them out. See what they're up to, artists and designers and just people in general. If you can support them, do so. If not, I think just more eyes on them is always a good thing.
Very well said. 100%. Because as far as companies go, I think EA is one of the better ones from what I've heard, at least for queer representation and just being like you can say what you want about EA's game design, but in terms of the way they treat their employees, the way they treat their player base with inclusion and stuff, they're actually pretty forward thinking and progressive. So of all the companies to lambaste over, not giving queer creators their due, this is probably on the lower end of it, but still.
Yeah. And it's not just them that, does this, like everyone does this. So I don't think it's necessarily like lambasting them. It's just, it happens to come up in conversation when when pride flags come up.
Yeah, for sure. And fuck Disney. I want to say that, put that out there into the world. Okay, let's move on. There's a new game coming from one of the people who made Celeste, and it's very similar to Stardew Valley, if Stardew Valley was a horror game. So, if that sounds intriguing to you, it should. It's called Neverway. It's being made by Cold Blood Inc., and one of the directors is the pixel artist behind Towerfall and Celeste. So if you need your Celeste vibes fix, this is the game to tide you over. So the Steam summary is as follows. After quitting her dead-end job, Fiona starts over on a farm. Sounds very similar to Stardew so far, and becomes the immortal herald of a dead god. Make friends, fight through horrors, and pay your debt in this nightmarish life sim RPG. It is the anti-Stardew Valley, and it looks so cool. It looks very similar to Stardew Valley, but with a color palette that's much more similar to Psychroma. Very monotone in each kind of area. Like if there's like a purplish looking room, like you're going to see a lot of different shades of purple. If there's a greenish looking room, like it's not like Stardew Valley where it's very colorful and bright and like representative of the seasons. It's very much like you're in hell almost. It's got music by Disaster Piece, who did the music for Fez and the movie It Follows. And I've never played Fez, but the movie It Follows has amazing music, and the music in this trailer, which you should check out on Steam, I'll link it down below. It's just amazing. Like I love the vibes of this. The game has dating sim elements as well. So I checked with the devs, and they said that Fiona, the main character, can date both women and men. It's currently in development with no confirmed release date, but the trailer is awesome, and like I said, you should go check it out and wishlist the game on Steam. And I'll link it down in the show notes. But Amy-Lynn, did you get a chance to check out the trailer I linked?
I haven't had a chance to check out the trailer, but I did check out the screenshots, sort of that are floating around online. And as you said, like the color palette really looks cool. Like I think that part of me would be, I mean, I've never played Stardew Valley, but I do, I love Animal Crossing. I was always very tempted by Harvest Moon as a child, even though I never played it. But I really like I have described my ideal aesthetic as sort of floral goth in the past. So, the general aesthetics here are fairly appealing. So I'm hoping to check it out when it releases, or at least follow its development to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't get enough time in Stardew Valley as it is, so I think I would dedicate time first and foremost to Stardew Valley, just because I still haven't finished it, and I'd like to, kind of get through to a good point there before I compare it to something else. But this looks really great. Like it's like if Stardew Valley was depressing, like, and it look in a good way though. Like it looks like miserable. Like this, you're owning a farm, but it's not a good thing. Whereas Stardew Valley, it's like the start of your life is like right now. Whereas this is the end of your life, which is kind of cool. So, and it's got at least, it's not quite player sexuality like we spoke about in another podcast, but because the main character is like determined like female, like you're playing as someone else, you're playing as Fiona. It's not like Stardew Valley where you're playing as yourself. But I'm not sure if the queer elements are going to be like heavily referenced, or if it's just going to be treated the same way player sexuality is, where just like everyone is attracted to Fiona by default. I don't think there's any queer devs on the team. I did look into it to see if any of the lead devs were queer. It doesn't seem like anyone else from Celeste, aside from the pixel artist, came along. And as far as I can tell, there's no confirmation that dev is queer. So let's move on to this very small headline. It's kind of big news, but there's not a lot to say about it. But Xbox has announced their June showcase. So every year, Xbox has a big, quote-unquote, not E3 presentation, and it's going to take place this year on Sunday, June 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. The presentation will be followed by a shorter presentation called a Direct, focused on Outer Worlds 2. This presentation will be the same weekend as Summer Game Fest, so expect a bunch of game news and reveals around that time, and it's also a few days after the Switch 2 launch. So I'm kind of expecting a bunch of Xbox games announced at this Xbox showcase to be coming to Switch 2 and PS5.
Yeah, aside from that little bit at the end of some of these games could come to Switch 2, I probably will not be watching live. Sometimes I will watch like the PlayStation events, just because some of those franchises I find interesting or have a connection to. It's very unlikely I'll have a lot to be excited for at the Xbox showcase. I do own a 360, and I'm looking at it now. I recently took it off my TV bench because I realized I don't use it for anything. But I wish them all the best, as if they're a person I'm firing, which isn't really the case. But yeah, I mean, they have said that
you're kind of firing them if you're taking that Xbox off your TV stand, Amy-Lynn.
Yeah, and they have recently said that everything is an Xbox. So, like, you know, my phone could be an Xbox. My old Surface Pro that I'm using to record this on, is probably more of an Xbox than anything, as it's made by Microsoft. But, you know, if everything is an Xbox, then I guess I owned thousands of Xboxes.
I'm just waiting for fridges to become an Xbox. That's what I really want. Like, now fridges can run Doom, so pretty soon if there's a screen and internet connection, it can be an Xbox. If you can connect a controller with Bluetooth, those are all the only three functionalities you need is Bluetooth controller support, an internet connection, and what was the other thing? I don't even remember. That's how tired I am. It's been a long week. Oh, did I say an internet connection? Bluetooth, internet connection, and no, I still don't remember what the third thing is. Anyway,
controller support. Yeah.
Controller support, which is Bluetooth, I guess. Anyway. I hope there's a lot of Xbox. I've heard rumors that the Master Chief Collection might be coming to Switch 2 at some point, which I think would be really, really wild to see. It's like, it would be like seeing Astrobot or Ratchet and Clank on Switch. It's just like wild to think about. So we have some PlayStation news. Speaking of games you're not interested in, Amy-Lynn, this is probably where you're going to come in with these thoughts. But a bunch of dates for this year's PlayStation concerts are being canceled in Europe. And it's likely due to low ticket sales, although it's not confirmed. So in a previous podcast, I think last fall sometime, I don't remember the previous, like which episode number it is, and I don't expect you to go back to that one specifically, because it was just like literally a quick headline of like, PlayStation is doing concerts. Be excited. But Sony's holding a concert series featuring music from all their biggest games. And I'm still pretty excited for it, but it seems a lot of people aren't. So this comes from Video Games Chronicle, and I'm just going to read part of the article here. PlayStation The Concert is a live stage show featuring music from across PlayStation's 30-year history. The tour will kick off in Dublin this month before moving to the UK for 6 dates. It will then tour the world for the remainder of 2025 and 2026. People who purchase tickets for certain dates have been getting emails from them that the show has been canceled and asking them to contact the booking company for a refund. Numerous threads have been posted on the Our PlayStation Reddit page with players saying their tickets have been canceled. One thread posted on Monday was from a user saying that they had just received an email informing them that the concert in Poland was no longer going ahead. Sony has yet to confirm why the shows are being canceled and postponed, but some are noting that they've been spotting discounts of up to 50% off tickets on remaining dates and speculating that some of the shows may not have sold well enough. End quote. So, I do wonder why people aren't as excited for this, because like, anytime there's been a video game concert in history, and most recently, there was Sonic the Hedgehog, which I think you went to, Amy-Lynn. We talked about that in one of our first episodes ever, right? And Stardew Valley also happened, I think, last year and is going for another round this year. And they were very popular. They all sold out. Like, I think Sonic sold out, did it not? Was it a packed venue?
Oh, it was incredibly packed.
Wow.
Filled with energy and, like, you know, fan meetups and huge lineups for the merch tables, cheers, and yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I went to the Final Fantasy one last September, and it was also packed, like sold out, and like very popular. Um, so I'm just like wondering, like, I mean, I have a bunch of theories, but my first theory is like, are tickets too expensive? Like, concerts in recent years have definitely gone up way too high in price, but that's obviously because the bands have to offset piracy. The bands have to offset the fact that CDs don't sell as well anymore. People are only streaming music, stuff like that. It's been a problem for ever since like the Napster days, if anyone actually remembers that. I was too young for that, but I know enough to know that like that's where kind of like music had a huge shift. Concert tickets started going up in price because that's where bands were making all their money. But anyway, so the cheapest ticket seems to be the equivalent of 120 Canadian, which is expensive. But the first date in Ireland is offering a 2-for-1 deal, which I found. And for a concert these days, like $120, so $60 a ticket for a concert of this caliber, like a big live orchestra playing like all your favorite music, that's pretty cheap. But $240 before that discount, like 120 per ticket, is really steep, to be honest. But I do wonder, like, are Sony's games not as exciting? Like, I know that in Sony in general, their IPs are not nearly as recognizable as, say, like a Mario or a Pikachu or a Kirby even. But I'm wondering if the music is less popular or not as memorable. Do people just not hear about this? Are people not listening to True Avatars where they get all their... No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I don't expect people to get all their news from me, but like, I just wonder, like, why people aren't interested. I guess you have some thoughts too, Amy-Lynn. So
I have so many thoughts. You could have me back for an entire 2-hour session, just ranting about video game music, to be honest. I think you're very much onto something. I think PlayStation games are great. Right? Like, there are some iconic and popular video games that Sony themselves have had a hand in making, or they've published semi-exclusively or exclusively for a long time. However, if you think about Nintendo and Sega, who have histories in the 8 and 16-bit eras, there are 5 and 7 note melodies that people can recognize that are Kirby, like the Kirby Extra Life jingle, the Sonic stage clear, Metroid's, opening the stage, getting out of the spaceship. There are amazing and core melodies that are intrinsically connected to nostalgia for people a little bit older than my age and a little bit younger than my age and beyond. It's really interesting, the development of video game music through the years. Like, if you look at AAA games, like, what's the last one that has had an iconic score and melody? Like, Astrobot seems like it had a fun, like, theme song, and I'm thinking about all the Game Awards, like, concerts, or their mini concerts leading up to the Game of the Year announcements. And, like, a lot of it is kind of generic orchestral swells. The focus is not on melody anymore. Like, I would argue that Halo is maybe the last game with like an iconic melody, and even that one is kind of subdued. The only exception to this, I think, would be Kingdom Hearts and a lot of the franchise games. So, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, modern versions of older games, even some more cinematic ones like Metal Gear, they'll still have significant melodies. And if you count, something like Splatoon being AAA, like, that is a very musical game, has concerts in Japan with holograms, KK Slider cameos. It's great. If you look at the modern games that have had concerts and successful ones, like, Sonic is a, evergreen franchise, but like Stardew Valley, which is relatively new, like Undertale, these are games that are replicating older restrictions. So even in their soundtracks, they are focusing on powerful melodies, and even, to some cases, verses, and, beats and things that are going to stick with people way more than whatever Uncharted does.
Well, first off, I would say Uncharted's a bad example because aside from, I mean, most of the soundtrack is kind of forgettable. I won't deny that, but I think Uncharted's main theme is actually very memorable. If I played it for you, you would recognize it instantly. However, that being said, I think you are completely correct in that modern video games are not creating melodies. They are creating like soundscapes. They are creating atmosphere. And I've noticed this problem too in the last couple of decades with movies as well. You know, like the John Williams and the Alan Silvestris of the world aren't making memorable melodies because that's not what they're being asked to do. The only theme I can think of in the last 20 years that's memorable, that's like a Back to the Future or a Star Wars of like the 70s and 80s is Avengers. And that was composed by Alan Silvestri. So I think video games are suffering from the same problem. And I think it might just be like a media problem. In general. So
I think so. And I think the Avengers thing is really interesting because, you know, I think the Avengers and then the Marvel Studios logo are memorable. But like, even if you look at like the latest Avengers, like, you know, reveal of all the actors, like all these songs come up and, you know, I think, you know, the idea is that, oh, the songs are going to excite people. But I think for most people, it's like, it's a name. It's a name. It's the name, and then oh, X-Men, hooray! Like because of the '90s cartoon theme that they've started to use, and that excites people, like it did in, you know, Doctor Strange, and like it did in Miss Marvel. Like that iconic melody has power. I think when it comes to PlayStation as well, it's interesting because when I think of PlayStation games with like, you know, as with important melodies, the main thing that comes to mind is Parappa the Rappa, which is not going to be in a fancy concert, unfortunately. Same with...
I mean, they could be surprising us with like one or two
That
tracks,
would be amazing.
The two games I want to hear most from, they had like a series of logos to advertise all the like games they're going to be showing pieces or playing pieces from. And like the big ones I think were like Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and there was one more. And then Uncharted and Astrobot, who I think have the two most memorable themes in all of PlayStation, at least in recent memory. Those games were in the like second tier of smaller logos. And I'm thinking like, Astrobot just won Game of the Year and Uncharted had a movie. Like obviously Last of Us is popular and so is God of War. But then thinking about all of this too, like even if these games do have one or two songs in each of them that are super memorable, like why aren't PlayStation fans showing up to this? Because like PlayStations have like PS2 sold as much as a DS or as much as a Nintendo Switch. So like there's the install base for that. There must be a bunch of people who grew up playing PlayStation. PlayStation 3 also sold, I want to say somewhere around the 100 million mark. Not sure, but it sold a lot of units after the whole kerfuffle of launch. And then the PS4 sold like a lot as well. And the PS5 continues to sell. So people are buying the consoles. So it makes me wonder, like, where are the PlayStation fans who are nostalgic for these games, even if these games are only like 8 or 9 years old? So
PlayStation is popular, but I don't know if there's as much game crossover as like a Nintendo fan or a Square Enix or even Final Fantasy fan. Like if someone goes to a Final Fantasy concert, they're probably not going to be crossing their arms pouting that there was only one Final Fantasy IV song. They're probably going to be happy that there was like one Final Fantasy V song in there and 2 from 4 and then 25 from Final Fantasy VII. Like I think
are you saying there's too much variety in this concert?
Yes, pretty much. Because like if I love the music to like Patapon, then I'm not gonna be excited about God of War's soundtrack. Like I would be excited about Loco Roco or Ape Escape probably, but if you're making like a greatest hits of PlayStation, you know, it sounds like, you know, they're being too varied in their game genres, which would make for a really varied and interesting concert, but it's not going to be exciting. Like, I don't think a lot of people are fans of a wide variety of PlayStation games the same way they are Nintendo. Like, that's why, like, it's not the only reason, but like PlayStation All-Stars didn't do so well despite a lot of effort, a lot of polish, a lot of creativity. But I think, you know, Nintendo kind of has something special there that only something like the larger Japanese companies like Capcom can really kind of hope to replicate when it comes to crossover appeal, or, something like Square Enix, individual franchises like Final Fantasy and Pokemon and Sonic can pull off an interesting variety concert. Zelda, of course. Although Zelda's definitely more people are a fan of Zelda, so they don't care if it's a similar song 7 times in a row. They're just happy to have the Zelda theme there as many times as they'll give it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think Nintendo's ever done a variety concert, as far as I know. Maybe for in a special event, one-time thing, but if Nintendo said they were, and I mean, I do think it's different. I think if Nintendo said they were going on tour, I think they would do a lot better than this. But that said, if Nintendo went on tour, yeah, I'd be going for Mario, I'd be going for Zelda, I'd be going for Pokemon, I'd be going for Kirby. If they played Splatoon stuff, I don't play Splatoon, so I wouldn't be as excited for that. But I do think Nintendo fans in general have been trained to play a variety of their franchises and enjoy them and be more nostalgic for them too. But anyway. We've been talking about this for a while, but I do think, it's a little disappointing that this isn't doing well, but I guess it's not too surprising either when we really think about it. So thank you for that take, actually, because you thought about it way more than I did when I was writing the show notes.
It's a passion project of my brain, I suppose.
Oh. Well, I appreciate it. Our last headline is Cyberpunk 2077 will have cross progression on Nintendo Switch 2. So if you've played or you're going to play Cyberpunk 2077, which is an awesome queer game, by the way, on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox, and you want to take your save file on the go, you will be able to transfer your save to Nintendo Switch 2, as CD Projekt Red has confirmed the Switch 2 version of the game will have cross-progression, just like the others. So it's pretty cool that the game will basically be functionally the same on Switch 2 as it is on other platforms, even if supposedly the performance is not great. I think it's functional, but it's not it's serviceable, but it's not great performance from what I've heard. But maybe I'll finally pick up the Switch 2 version and actually play past the tutorial, because I was really into the game, but the crouch button not working was kind of a deal breaker for me, and I opted out when it launched. And I played it on PS4, unfortunately, because I did not have a PS5 at the time, because who could get one? Actually, Amy-Lynn, would you play Cyberpunk on Switch 2 if you had a Switch 2? Is this a game you would jump into?
I don't know if I jump into it. I would put my toe in the water and see how cold it was, and see how much I liked the character creator. And then if I did, I'd get in waist level and do some swimming and see. I don't think any diving would happen.
That's fair. I like where this metaphor is going.
I think I would enjoy it a lot more than other similar games or games of its ilk. I love I'm a later 30s trans woman. I like the cyberpunk aesthetic. It's sort of, I think, built into my DNA. I'm sure it's kind of part of your world. I think if I don't have some sort of interest in cyberpunk, the trans police will come take my card away.
I was about to call them, actually. Just kidding, I don't call cops.
I guess, I think legally they're more trans rangers, but yeah, I don't know, if I found a copy on the street, I would be excited to play it, but okay. Kirby's Air Riders is a game that will be on the system, so I'll have something to play. Yeah, I mean, again, the aesthetics is cool. I like the queer subject matter. I think it's interesting having a first-person game that isn't, just a shooter. It seems really immersive. The world looks cool. I wish it was a little bit brighter, but that's just an aesthetic thing. I'd like, I guess, a little bit more anime. If the game was, I haven't seen it, but if the game was Cyberpunk Edge Runners in aesthetics, I would probably be there day 2. But as it is, with its kind of general, realistic CG models, it's okay.
I think it would have performed better if it had an Edge Runners art style, because then they could have fallen back on stylized graphics over detailed graphics like Nintendo does. Then maybe the game would have run better out of the gate.
Yeah, and I have a lot more interest in one day seeing Edge Runners than I do playing the game.
Well, that's it for this week's headlines, and that will also wrap up this week's podcast, which is a bit shorter than usual. Thank you so much for joining me, Amy-Lynn.
Thank you, and bring back the Kirby concert.
Yes, please, and bring back the Pokemon concerts and the Zelda ones too, because I still have not been to one of those. But that just about wraps up this week's show. Thanks True Avatars for joining me for another episode of your queer video game podcast. If you've made it this far into the episode, I really appreciate you taking the time to support queer-made content. If you want to support the show, it would be really great if you could leave a rating, review, or comment on your preferred podcast platform. I welcome you to check out the website trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. That's trueavatarspodcast.com. You can also find the show on Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube under the handle @trueavatars, all one word, and on Instagram under trueavatars. Importantly, if you or anyone you know is queer and involved with video games in some way, please don't be shy. I would love to hear from more queer voices in video games. Your voice is unique and valid and worth sharing with the world. And if you don't want to be on the show or know anyone is interested, but you know about a cool queer video game or a games industry story that's queer related, please let me know. The show's official email is trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. That's trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. You can also feel free to reach out via the website or the aforementioned social media pages. Things are tough out there and queer people need to stick together when we can. Bye True Avatars, thank you so much for listening and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.